Australian Defence Industries was awarded the Minehunter project 2 months ago. Today, the $1 billion contract was signed and sealed under the watchful eye of Defence Minister Robert Ray. ADI will construct 6 state-of-the-art minehunters for the Royal Australian Navy, the first to be delivered in 1998. The Minehunter project is the biggest single defence contract ever awarded in New South Wales. While some of the work will be carried out overseas, most will be undertaken in Australia, in particular in New South Wales and here in the Hunter. Its ramifications are enormous.
This project will directly create several hundred jobs in the Hunter region and elsewhere in Australia, which will continue into the next century.
The development of ADI's harbourside facility at Carrington is now underway and should be fully operational by September next year, employing around 350 people. Already, ADI has started allocating work to other companies, including a $150 million contract for Sydney-based GEC Marconi, which will design and build the sonar and combat systems for the vessels. A Newcastle computer company will provide $1 million in equipment, while Leighton's will build the infrastructure for the vessels. When complete, the minehunters will be an integral part of Australia's defence force.
In today's sophisticated maritime environment, every advantage can be critical, and I'm confident that Australia will have the best minehunter to meet these requirements.
This is the first of what is likely to occur many times in the next few months. Thousands of tonnes of barley and oats from South Australia are being unloaded in Newcastle for distribution in the New England and northwest of New South Wales.
Related to the drought, the tough times they're having, particularly in the northern parts of New South Wales. And I had an inquiry this morning for 25,000 tonnes a week coming in from Mexico, and that's just a turnabout face completely.
The cereal will help feed starving stock, and while its arrival comes in tragic circumstances, it was a chance for stevedoring company Torres to try out its latest hopper. Previously, grain was loaded and unloaded directly onto the wharf. However, the $500,000 machine allows for a more environmentally safe method.
In normal circumstances, cargoes normally comes out of the ship direct onto the wharf, and when the wind comes up, we have a lot of problems. We either just stop discharge, water the cargo down, but generally it's blown around all over the place.
Torres hopes to market the machine Australia-wide. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Now trained by John Hawkes in Sydney, Spanish Mix returned 12.90 and 2.80 in its second Group 1 victory and gave Stephen King a winning double. To another major sprint, the Premier Stakes at Rose Hill over 1,200 metres. Stormy Regent got the judge's decision over Big Dreams and Keltrice. The Quinella returning $18.40, the trifecta $120.50. Running into a stiff breeze, West showed all the enterprise in the opening stages, their expansive game backfiring when Toronto swooped on an error, the ever-present Gavin Cook backing up to score against the run of play. There was no luck in Toronto's second, quick hands giving Brett Ryder a clear run to the line. But it came at a price. Scorpion centre Simon Cook sent off for striking. It was also included in referee Farrell's match report for allegedly gouging an opponent. It failed to deter Toronto, Mal Graham giving them a 16-0 lead at the break. West half Tony Price sparked the revival, first setting up Steve Story and then scoring himself. A further try by hooker Steve Valetti levelled the scores at 16-all, but that's where the West charge halted, the Scorpions kicking a penalty goal and a late converted try to qualify for the grand final.
It's as close as you can get to an air battle without going to war. The Aussie Top Guns haven't fought in a real dogfight since Korea, but operations like this test them against the best in the world.
We're not pussycats. We know our job, we know it very well, and we can stand up and be counted with the best in the world.
The pilots' gruelling 12-hour days start with an early morning briefing session. The Australians, including Williamtown's No. 3 Squadron, are up against a combined American and Singaporean enemy called Orange Force. A few F-18 Hornets are sent out to scout for intruders, reinforcements brought in when the enemy is spotted. Every second is vital, the jets refuelled in the air. By the end of the day, pilots have flown numerous sorties, providing valuable experience if Australia is ever forced to defend itself. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
These miners are some of the 200 angry workers who walked off the job at West Wallsend Colliery last Thursday over a safety procedure they believe was not complied with by a contractor working at the mine.
When contractors come on a mine site, they're to be inducted so that they're aware of all the safety hazards of the mine site. Now, that didn't take place.
The contractor had been using oxyacetylene cutting equipment near a fan shaft which releases underground gases. The fear is the naked flame could have caused an explosion in the mine where the men were working.
Do you think that the concerns that have been raised by you and your co-workers, are they fair? The safety is paramount?
Oh yeah, it's got to be in this industry, you know. You don't get a second chance with it.
The miners' concerns are heightened by memories of an explosion at the colliery in 1979 and, more recently, the Maura mine tragedy in Queensland. The miners want an assurance workers entering the colliery are instructed in safety issues and, after listening to an inspector's report on the situation, voted to continue strike action, meeting again tomorrow morning.
In the meantime, we will be approaching management to ensure that they will table a full report on this issue.
It's hoped the report will be completed by Friday. Catherine Lamond, NBN News. By 1997, Pasminco will have spent $41.5 million improving its Bullaroo plant. The plans were submitted in the form of an environmental impact statement and development application to the state government today and covers stage 2 of the upgrade, due for completion in 97, as well as some work carried out in the late 80s.
The environmental impact statement really does show that improving the technology that we use and upgrading the plant will lead to improved environmental performance.
The plans won't result in extra buildings, mainly replacement of outmoded ones. The improvements aim to increase zinc production from 90 to 110,000 tonnes annually, plus reduce average annual lead concentrations in the air in surrounding suburbs to below the National Health and Medical Research Council's goal of 1.5 micrograms per cubic metre. The other aim is to lower sulphur dioxide emissions. Pasminco's levels intermittently exceed national standards.
The National Health and Medical Research Council have a goal for sulphur dioxide in the community. We monitor sulphur dioxide every 10 minutes at various monitoring stations in the community, and at times we have a weather inversion and we don't meet that goal.
6th Street, Bullaroo and nearby streets are some areas where the sulphur dioxide emissions sometimes exceed the recommended levels. In an effort to cut these gas emissions by half, Pasminco will install an $11 million acid plant converter within the next 3 years. The EIS will be open for public comment within the next few months, and a commission of inquiry into the proposal will be conducted in November-December. If the plans are approved, work will begin early next year. Catherine Lamond, NBN News. These workers, many of them now ex-employees of Chain Valley Colliery, downed tools yesterday over what they say are inadequate bathhouse facilities, particularly scalding showers.
At any one time, if someone adjusts the showers, the other blokes are getting scalded in that, or they're getting cold water on them.
The mines department have also bought into it, and they believe that it needed rectifying. I understand the company has attempted on a couple of occasions with a plumber to make some adjustments to it, but it just hasn't worked.
Managing Director of the Coal Operations Australia-owned mine says while he hasn't used the showers, he's been assured the facilities are as good as can be. Chain Valley's 46 afternoon shift workers led the strike. Last night they received dismissal notices. The company claims this followed warnings to the men that their actions equalled serious misconduct, as well as contravening their contracts of employment and orders from the local coal authority to work as normal following 3 previous strikes. As for the other 2 shifts, if the other guys don't want to comply, they'll be warned accordingly. When asked if he'd consider sacking them too, he replied yes is the short answer. This afternoon, the company issued misconduct warning notices to day shift employees. Earlier, workers voted to remain on strike until the sacked workers were reinstated and the bathhouse satisfactorily repaired. Meanwhile, miners at West Wallsend Colliery have voted to return to work from 11 o'clock tonight. Their vote follows confirmation from management that a report on a perceived breach of safety practices by a contractor will be tabled on Friday.
From that there'll be a round of meetings conducted probably on the Monday for all shifts for analysis of that document.
Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Police were on scene in minutes when Mr Bowmore, who had earlier been warned by detectives, phoned to say a vehicle had arrived outside his Somersby Art Gallery, home for some of the world's most priceless works.
Well, we advised the police by telephone, and they all converge from Newcastle, from Chatswood, and from Gosford.
Mr Bowmore then took part in a police chase. 5 men will appear in Gosford Court next week, charged in relation to the matter. These pieces belong to Mr Bowmore's Islamic glass collection, the only one of its kind in Australia. This 14th century lamp is worth $3 million. As a precaution, the collection was packed and moved to Newcastle's Regent Gallery for safekeeping.
Well, I was afraid really of damage. If they didn't get what they wanted or couldn't, I was afraid of smashing up. And this collection here is worth about $4 million.
But the security scare has failed to upset the 80-year-old art lover. In fact, he's more prepared than ever should would-be burglars ever attempt another heist.
If anybody likes to come in and rob the place, they're taking a very, very big risk. We are as cunning as they are too, you know.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
These students from Nelson Bay High are performing excerpts from the play 2 Weeks with the Queen. Like the other 20 schools taking part in the drama festival, they have 15 minutes to entertain the crowd.
It's an opportunity for students to see each other's work, to showcase what they're doing in their school. And it's also a terrific opportunity for teachers to see what other students are doing.
Many of those performing are studying drama for the HSC. Some would like to make acting a career.
It's a chance to express yourself and show sort of all emotions and everything, just express yourself and not sort of worry about what other people think.
The plays deal with a wide variety of subjects. Many of the issues affect young people. The festival continues tomorrow. The best plays will be performed at a special public performance at the Civic Playhouse tomorrow night. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Newcastle, Westpac 1. Yeah, Westpac 1's to far this scene.
With more than 600 missions a year, the rescue service's twin-engine Bell 412 is stretched to the limit. Demand is steadily increasing for its use in emergency responses, search and rescue operations, as well as medical transfers.
With aircraft, the more hours they fly, the more maintenance that it has to do. So therefore, some of the hours that we should be available, we're offline doing maintenance.
But help is on the way. To make sure the service can stay online, a $1.2 million backup aircraft has been bought from a Gold Coast company. It's being fitted out in Brisbane and is due to arrive in Newcastle early October.
Means that they're more assured of the fact that if they do need very quick transport, that we can respond.
In order to expand, the service has taken out a $500,000 loan and is relying on community support to help pay it back.
Just continue to support us, and if you continue to support us, we'll be able to provide you with an even better service.
A solid return for March Hare and jockey Jimmy Cassidy, who was back in the saddle today after a 3-week suspension. It returned 6-10 for the win, with Slight Chance and Kingston Bay filling the minors. To Melbourne, where Gary Harley's pick Royal Rubiton in the pink colours on the rails got poleaxed in the straight, costing it any chance in the Turf Ruler handicap. Barcara the winner, but Paris Lane the run of the race. The Quinella $127.50, the trifecta $2,133.70. Tonight's losing streak continued in the gloom of Caltex Field last night, but today the team's performance was once again overshadowed by the coaching situation. Discussing the match with Paul Harrigan on NBN's Footy Show today, Peter Sterling, who was approached about taking over Newcastle, preempted tomorrow's coaching appointment. A decision is expected late tomorrow afternoon.
The creature has earned the nickname Pimpernel because he or she is so elusive. First sighted across the Harrington Bar last Tuesday, the whale has captured the interest of locals as well as experts. It's estimated to be 10 metres long, weighing at least as many tonnes. The MSB has closed the channel to traffic, fearing the mammal may be panicked. The National Parks and Wildlife Rangers are keeping their distance. From the deck of the houseboat behind me, they're attempting to monitor the breathing pattern of the whale. Every 5 minutes the whale comes up for air, to the delight of a growing number of whale watchers. It's a rorqual, either tropical, sail or minke. The sex of the animal is still a mystery.
It may be a female, it may be pregnant. It's certainly not displaying any characteristics where it's obviously in labour. It seems very comfortable in the river.
Orca, together with the National Parks and Wildlife Service, are devising strategies to prevent the whale from injuring itself. They're hoping to maintain a presence on the water while they investigate reasons for it entering the river. Divers may be called upon to help collect data if the whale remains in the manning. While authorities have no plans to force it back into the ocean, they hope it will find its own way. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
It's become a bit of a habit, with Western Suburbs the unfortunate victim. Last season, Phil Williams kicked a goal from the sideline to level the grand final, then potted an easier one to win Curry's first premiership in 48 years. A year later on the same ground yesterday, Newcastle's leading scorer for several seasons needed this kick to give his side a chance of defending their title.
All I thought was last year. Same spot, well, on the same side of the ground. Just had it at sweep and thank Christ the wind blows.
The conversion and 12-all victory ended quite a week for Williams. A debatable 29 years old, he yesterday completed his 200th first-grade game for Curry with 12 stitches in his mouth, only days after learning he was to become a father. Curry's grand final opponent is Toronto, a side which has beaten the Bulldogs 3 times this season, so Williams is intent on focusing on Sunday rather than yesterday's remarkable achievement.
We've still got a week to go. We've got 7 days of training. Hopefully next week we do the same thing. Touch wood.
Glenn Messenger definitely won't play in the grand final, while Todd Green is in doubt after this hit from Anthony McDonald, who will front the judiciary tonight. No such injury problems for Toronto. The 2-week break a blessing rather than a hindrance.
At the end of a long, arduous season, we've had a lot of bumps and bruises and had to have a few needles to get players on the field these last few competition games, but this 2 weeks off will basically just top us off.
In Group 21, Aberdeen down Scone, while on the Central Coast, Wyong upset Yamina.
Was lit. It's not just an
out. We're blessed with a prediction of another 48 hours.
Somebody's obviously got a psychological problem, I would say.
15-year-olds Katie Mitchell and Lee Marning are Tari's representatives at the Commonwealth Games. Family and friends are counting the hours until the girls perform their routine in the rhythmic team event. Katie has overcome asthma and epilepsy to make it this far. Coach Doreen Raywood says Katie is enduring an intensive training schedule despite a recent ankle fracture.
She's a naturally talented child and a really good worker. In the early stages she might have done an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, but leading up to this big event it's been 6 hours a day down at the State Sports Centre in Sydney with the rest of the national squad.
Katie's sister Danny is also involved in the sport. She's been practising for the National Levels Championship in Victoria next month. Meanwhile, mother Annette Mitchell says the local support for her daughter is overwhelming.
And Tari's been really great and really supportive, and she's been sent lots of faxes from the high school and school friends.
On hand to officially open the new Department of Juvenile Justice Centre in Moree was member for Barwon Walmurray. The department has a number of aims to assist those juveniles who find themselves on the wrong side of the law.
Specifically look at provision of services both in the community and residentially for young people who break the law, and our major mission is to serve the community by providing quality services to these people to try and look at their reintegration into the community and skilling them up to live within the law.
Members of the community and the police service, along with representatives and staff from the Department of Juvenile Justice, were on hand to inspect the new centre that will house the two offices. Having a permanent office in Moree, the department feels will be a step in the right direction.
The Moree office is another extension of what we've been doing in Moree, specifically for juvenile crime. The office itself will provide better facilities.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News.
There's a plethora of drugs on the market to treat mental disorders which range from mild depression and insomnia to the more serious problems like schizophrenia. Pharmaceutical companies say they're increasingly being required to inform patients about the nature of medication they've been prescribed because doctors haven't. A viewpoint backed up by a leading pharmacist. Stuart Baker says often patients who may be taking 6 or 7 different medications daily are given too many drugs.
Nobody really knows exactly all the time what illness a patient has. It's a very, very difficult area to diagnose correctly and therefore to select the right drug.
The inaugural conference of pharmacists dealing with mental health was hosted by Newcastle's James Fletcher Hospital today. Delegates were told that despite an increase in funding after the release of the Burdekin report last year, there's still a huge shortfall in the provision of services. 1 in 4 Australians will suffer a mental illness in their lifetime.
There's not enough money in 2 areas. Firstly, in simple support, accommodation. Secondly, no, there's not a lot of money given to research.
Joanne Tubridge, NBN News. It was about 12:30 this morning when a woman sleeping in the caravan's aluminium annex was awoken by smoke. She managed to stir her 3 young children and brother-in-law, but couldn't wake her 37-year-old husband.
We have one male person, unidentified at this stage, who is deceased in the fire. We believe 1 female and 3 children have been taken to Hawkesbury Hospital.
It was 30 minutes before fire crews arrived, hampered by thick fog and the isolation of the caravan park. The fire spread quickly, destroying 2 caravans on either side and damaging several others. Distressed relatives were comforted at the scene, other campers visibly shaken by the incident. The family had been holidaying from Botany in Sydney's south. Police say they've yet to confirm the cause of the fire. They believe it may have started from a lit cigarette in the caravan near where the victim had been sleeping. Joanne Shoebridge, NBN News. The deadline to resolve Green Point runs out tomorrow. It'll be 14 days since developer McCloy's announced they were pulling out of the deal because a house proposed for the site wasn't approved. Mayor John Kilpatrick believes the issue will be worked out tonight.
It's been a good lesson, in fact, that we should have communicated a little bit better on this one, and I think if we do communicate and resolve difficulties without having to get to this stand-off situation, I think that'll be good.
Also to be decided whether to grant approval for a new Department of Social Security office on this land at Charlestown. A letter of objection was received from solicitors acting for rival developer Bruce Steggles. As a consequence, Flannery Constructions will build 14 more car parking spaces on nearby council land. Although concerns have also been raised about the building's size and height, Councillor Mercia Buck believes the proposal will get the go-ahead.
I really do feel that it's quite a good proposal. We desperately need a new upgraded facility in Charlestown.
Also tonight, the Pinny Beach subdivision. Council recently approved the residential development, but in doing so allowed the developer to encroach on protected coastal land. A report by General Manager Robert Gray recommends that work on the site be allowed to continue, otherwise Council could face a major damages claim.
I'll be speaking to a number of staff in relation to the situation. But I still think at the end of the day, the consent that has been issued is a valid consent.
Jodie McKay, NBN News.